Welcome back to Scratching the Surface. On episode 30 today, I will be talking about Terrifier 3. Before I get into the episode, please check us out at scratchingthesurface100.com. You can keep up to date on future episodes. You can leave your own horror movie reviews on our horror movie review database, Smashed Pumpkins, and you can read our monthly article blogs. That stuff is all there for you, the viewer, to enjoy. To talk about Terrifier 3, we have to look back at the incipient stages of this franchise. That starts in 2008 with The Ninth Circle, a short film from Damien Leone, which is on YouTube. And then we have another short in 2011 titled Terrifier. These two shorts got combined to make the 2013 film All Hallows Eve, which is an anthology of sorts of those two short films combined. So between 2013 and 2016, when we get Terrifier, Damien Leone was working on getting the funds to make a full movie happen. And he was doing pretty goddamn well. He got some help from Falcone to put money in there and to get producer rights. And we end up with Terrifier in 2016. One thing to note, those first three, the two shorts and All Hallows Eve, has a different person playing and portraying Art the Clown. That is Mike Gianelli. In 2016, in 2022, and in 2024, with those three Terrifiers, we had the whole time David Howard Thornton playing that role of Art. So that's very important to keep in mind. I imagine his portrayal was way different on the two shorts and in All Hallows Eve. So I have to watch those. I'm sure it's a completely different performance. But Terrifier is about two young ladies who are stalked by Art the Clown on Halloween night. He slowly but surely takes them out. And one of the sisters of Tara, I believe, Victoria, was badly mangled in the fight scene at the end of the movie. We then have Art the Clown shoot himself. He ends up in a morgue. And from what we know, he's dead. However, he is resurrected by some type of entity. We see it to be the pale little girl in Terrifier 2. This pale little girl, we don't know a lot about her. We think maybe she is mimicking a past, or she's at least resembling a past victim of Art the Clown. But what we do know is that she is resurrecting Art and facilitating him in his killings in Terrifier 2. So in Terrifier 2, we have a story centered around the protagonist, Sienna Shaw, and her brother, Jonathan Shaw. Damien Leone got a lot of backlash on the first Terrifier for a lack of storytelling and a lack of good characters. So he brought back an initial character he had when he was working on that 2008 short film, The Ninth Circle, a woman that was angelic in sorts with armor and with a sword that he had thought about creating but never got put onto the screen. So he crafted that character for Terrifier 2. We see her heavily in Terrifier 2, and she goes toe-to-toe with Art at the end of that film, and she does, from what we see, kill Art. But we do know that Art is not human at this point, for at least what we know. And sure enough, he does end up making it into Terrifier 3 in the most bizarre way possible. Victoria from the first Terrifier, who was badly mangled, was put into a psychiatric ward of sorts because she obviously was very fucked up from that experience, both, in appearance and in her mind, I am sure, was struggling heavily with what happened. Well, what she essentially ends up being is a vessel of sorts for Art the Clown. For Art, he needs to have her to supplement him, to keep him alive, to keep him strong. And what she does is births Art's head, because Art lost his head at the end of Terrifier 2. Sienna chopped it off. But through the birth of his head from Victoria, he's given his head back. I probably didn't need to see that scene. It was probably unnecessary, but I mean, we knew that Art was not human. We knew he would probably come back. We didn't need to see that. But we lead into Terrifier 3. This is where I'm going to start getting into the spoiler zone. So you have been warned. Terrifier 3, we see Art 5 years later after going dormant, in like a dormant state of sorts, with Victoria, his accomplice. And after those 5 years, being woken back up by two demolition workers who are checking out this old building. Now, this is the old building that Art the Clown and his accomplice Victoria went to go into a dormant state and wait for their next chance to kill. Once they are brought back to life, they go back on a hunt for Sienna Shaw. They are drawn to her. She is the one sole person that can defeat Art. And there is much more of a display of good and evil in this movie. We see Sienna clearly depicted as a angel-like presence, a Jesus Christ-like presence that is able to combat Art the Clown, who you could obviously look at as the devil and as Satan or something like that. And a lot of the film is just Art the Clown going around doing what he does best and killing people in comical ways and in a lot of cases brutal ways that people just frankly don't need to see. And that's the whole point of the Terrifier franchise, is to push the boundaries, to push the envelope, and to test the patience of the viewer and the will of the viewer to watch some of this shit. And it creates a lot of hype, it creates a lot of word of mouth, and it worked to get Terrifier 2 made, because Terrifier took a while. It took a while for that word of mouth to kind of grow. There was one scene from Terrifier that was specifically very, very graphic. And I think those types of scenes, Damien Leone has been chasing ever since, when he's made Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. And at some point, in my opinion, once you've seen one face ripped off, you've seen them all. And there comes a point in Terrifier 3 where I questioned what I was watching. And that happens specifically in the final act once the shower scene comes around. It's a very graphic, very brutal, just grotesque in every way possible. And I personally did not like it. I think the viewers at the theater were enjoying the movie up until that point. But after that, things got kind of silent. I think people were beginning to question if what they were watching was morally good. And it's the horror genre. So I'm not going to judge people for liking that stuff. It is what it is. If that's what you're into, cool. But sometimes they push it too far. They take it too far. And that is how I felt with Leone's choice on some of those kills. He's constantly trying to one up his past kills, and they're all extremely graphic. How much more graphic can you get, really? At some point, it becomes a dull, miserable experience. That's my opinion. Dull and miserable. There's one scene from the movie, the bar scene, that I in particularly did like. I thought that was a great scene. Art the Clown was genuinely funny in the way he went about his kills. It was just a funny scene in general. But we get away from that. And it gets to the point where nobody is safe in these movies. We start killing kids in this movie. Now, they're off screen, I will say, so that's a little better, but still, there's a line, Leone, and you crossed it with killing kids. I don't like that type of stuff. That's just how I feel. And that's why I'm going with a 5.9 on this film. You can say it has great practical effects. It does. It's incredible just how realistic some of that looks. I'm not denying that. But if you're going to tell me that this film is a 90%, a 100%, you're absolutely crazy. You need your head checked. This is not a good film. This is not good storytelling. This is back and forth, jarring scenes from happiness to brutal murder. It's so chaotic from scene to scene. It is not consistent. It does not flow. And it seems like Leone can't make up his mind on whether he wants to tell a good story about a character or if he just wants to show a bunch of brutal kills. You can't have scene to scene being happy scenes to brutal scenes to happy scenes to brutal scenes. Let's make up a quick ending, call it good. That's not how it works. It's a 5.9. It's not a 6. This is a movie that people should skip. If you want to watch the first Terrifier, fine. I like that one. The second Terrifier, okay. The third Terrifier, I absolutely do not recommend it. And I think the Leone train for me has left, and I do not want to be on it any longer. And I'm okay with that. People will probably come to me and say that, oh no, you'll watch the fourth one. You'll give in. You'll watch it. No, I will not. There's a line that Leone crossed. And I don't think we should praise a film that is this graphic, or a franchise that is trying to constantly one-up itself with an insanely graphic, grotesque kill. It just doesn't work, and I totally disagree with the way this franchise is going. And especially the difference, I think, from this Terrifier to the original Terrifier is the lighting. In those kills in Terrifier, it was dark. You couldn't see everything as much. But in Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, everything is so well lit, and you see every little detail that does not need to be seen, and it makes people queasy, and that's what he's going for. But I hate that. You shouldn't be making a film to just strictly get people queasy and get them to leave the theater. That's not true storytelling. That's not good filmmaking. And in my opinion, that's just not a good film to go to. If I don't want to sit there and just feel completely repulsed by a film, I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun with it. I have fun with it in the bar scene, but they didn't do that the whole film. They only did it for about 5 to 10 minutes in that single bar scene. And that's why I'm going to 5.9. There's probably a lot of people that disagree with me here, and that's fine. I think the lore of Art the Clown, while is being worked up and built up a little more, which is good, is still not that great. I don't like the idea of it, and I don't like seeing a character like Sienna Shaw essentially crafted around Jesus Christ. We clearly see her wearing a head of thorns at the final scene in this movie, the final act, and we see her hands heal after lacerations were cut in her hands, clearly signaling that this is the savior. So to me, that's very unoriginal and just very ridiculous to try to craft a character around that, in my opinion. So that's my review. If you disagree, let me know. And as always, guys, thank you and keep watching horror. I appreciate your time, and we'll be back out with episode 31, hopefully in the next week, maybe on Smile 2. So thanks again.